Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. What a crazy time of year around the NBA. We've got a lot to get into on today's show. We're going to talk about Luka returning to Dallas, a 45-point eruption on his former club. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Nikola Jokic and his role in Michael Malone being let go, and we'll take a look at the standings, which, oh boy, the West is wild. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Trevor Lane, joined as always by Keith Smith. Keith, whew, that was an emotional night last night in Dallas. So we saw it from Luka. I didn't know what to expect, but my initial thought was, oh my God, how is he going to play this game? When I saw how upset Luka was during that tribute video.
Yeah, without a doubt. It was you could really, obviously watching from afar here in Orlando, you could feel it through the screen. Yeah. How much it meant to him. And clearly, anybody who thought that there was any question in his mind if he never wanted to leave Dallas, there it is. And that's not saying he's not happy now with the result and all of that, but clearly it meant a ton for him to play back there. And I literally texted a friend of mine and said, he's either gonna play horrible and have 5 points and shoot terribly, or he's gonna go bananas. And he went bananas and had a monster game. I mean, he just that the one for me was, it was at the end of the first quarter. He got Derek Lively on a switch, and he basically treated him like he treated Gobert in the West Finals, West semifinals. West Finals, I think.
Finals,
right?
Yeah.
Finals. Yeah, and basically dribbled him right to the spot he wanted on the wing, and couple bounces and let it rip right over him, and nothing but net. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he had a tremendous performance. I thought the Mavs crowd, if you're now maybe not the Mavs organization, but if you were a Mavs fan, you've got to be pretty happy with the way that crowd was all game. Yeah. They cheered their team. They cheered Luka every time Luka did anything, and every dead ball they were raining down fire Nico so loud. So loud. And Nico was there. Nico Harrison was there in attendance. Yeah. But I saw so many Mavs fans after the game all across social media saying that was exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted our voices to be heard. We wanted to make it to be clear how we felt. We wanted to support Luka, support our team at the same time. And man, I thought that the Mavs crowd there, they checked all the boxes that night.
Yeah, you could barely hear the broadcast at times. That's how loud. And it's a lot of times it's those chants almost echo, right? Because they just don't get it right. It's right. One half of the arena's on the fire and the other half's on the Nico, and it just sounds like a jumbled mess. They were in unison. It was absolutely incredible. And there was, like you said, that's how you wanted the night to go, if that's where your point was. And for Dallas, the game, it ultimately meant nothing because Phoenix lost later in the night. Yeah. We're going to do a standings watch here in a little bit, but it didn't mean anything. Big game for the Lakers, obviously, and then they get, I guess, a little good news with the Warriors' surprising loss. Just any separation you can create from anybody in the pack is good there. So it's just huge game for them, and I think what's been really important for the Lakers over this last, let's call it about 2-week-ish stretch when they've been mostly healthy, is they're really getting the small ball lineups working. And everybody's like, well, who's the 5? And I'm like, there just isn't one, right? It doesn't really matter whoever it is. They're kind of switching everything and doing that and getting those small lineups working. I'm glad you have the box score up, because this is probably what Lakers' ideal box score would look like from a minutes played standpoint. Yeah. Obviously, a little better production some places. I mean, sure, you'd love it if Luka scored 45 every night. Not sure. Happen. But Jackson Hayes basically starting each half, and then that's it. Then you don't really see him again. And Finney Smith, Vanderbilt playing well with this one. I thought Gabe Vincent, just kind of was out there a couple times. The Mavs made a run at it, but this is probably where we're headed. I think for the Lakers, if they're going to be successful with lineup construction the rest of the way.
Yeah, they're definitely playing smaller out there on the floor. Their five-man group, it's very clear. It's LeBron, it's Rui, it's Finney-Smith, it's Luka, it's Austin.
Yep.
That's their five that they want to play as much
Yep.
as possible. It's how they're closing games right now. They're going smaller. And what's interesting is they're actually finding a lot of success against teams that go big with that line. They're kind of zigging where another team zags, and they're able to beat teams that are going bigger than them by knocking down the threes that they're getting as a result on the other end. So
and playing a little quicker.
Yes.
Too, right? Like, and it's for the Lakers, they're not that Luka and LeBron can't rip and run, but they're really good at advancing the ball by the pass. So like they get it up there. So that is when you have and Dallas, fairly good example. They got pretty good rim protection. That one Daniel Gafford
blocking both shots.
Block, I mean, man, that was crazy. But like if you get in a series with, let's say, Minnesota, who has really good rim protection, you want to be able to get it down the floor so you're not always having to play in the half court, because that's just a way to get easier offense that way. And the Lakers are really good at advancing with the pass. The key to playing small, as always, a lot of people go to, oh, there's no shot blocking. Well, that's okay. I mean, you can work around that. You just have to rebound. You just can't give up a ton of offensive rebounds. And they've got enough guys who can really go at it on the boards. And then that gives you a lot of space and a lot of shooting on the floor. Even Finney-Smith, 1 of 6 last night, but you have to guard him. He's not, those 6 attempts, you have to get out to him. You can't leave him open. There's just really nobody. I guess anybody there, you'd probably say, all right, I'm going to probably, if I have to pick my poison, leave Hachimura open just because, but that's probably not where you want to go either. So.
He's like a 42% spot up shooter.
Exactly. Yeah, not a great option, right? I mean, maybe it's LeBron at this point. I don't know. Like, there's just not a good option, right?
And no player is ever going to see LeBron James and say, I'm going to leave that guy.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, just let him shoot, right?
Right.
Especially once the games take on more importance. He's like historically, seems like he gets better and better. So, but that's the idea, right? Stress the opposing defense with being a space. As long as you can credibly defend and rebound, you can play really small. I mean, that's the Warriors for years and years because they could do that. That was why they started closing games that way.
So before we get complaints that we're talking too much Lakers, from the Mavs side of things, we saw the Lakers defensively do things that to Anthony Davis that teams did against the Lakers for a while, much to the annoyance of Lakers fans, right? They fronted him, they made it difficult. You could feel how much this Mavs team is missing Kyrie to set up their bigs. Where does Dallas go from here now? I mean, organizationally, this is not a good look for the Mavs organization when you've got this high-profile matchup, your entire fan base chanting "Fire Nico" at the GM. Ownership, I don't believe they were in attendance. I didn't see ownership there. I didn't see Patrick.
I think
Dumont
Patrick Dumont might have been there. I don't know.
Maybe he was there.
I don't remember them showing him though.
I don't know if he was there or not, but not a great look for the Mavs organizationally, the way that all played out. And then Luka going nuts, Mavs fans definitely feeling a certain kind of way about that last night. What does all this mean for the Mavs?
Yeah, I think this is a kind of the microcosm of they just don't have enough ball handling and playmaking that on the floor, like on the roster period without Kyrie. We said that in the wake of the trade that it was a lot was going to fall on Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie was having an incredible season. It was playing really well. So I'm not going to beat up on him too much because that was the idea, right? Was like, we'll have Kyrie. He'll be out there for 40 minutes a night when the games really matter. And he's not. But that now tells you going into the offseason, you have to make that a priority. And it's limited resources as far as trades. They're going to be a team, especially pending what Kyrie's next contract is. Yeah. They're going to be bumping up against the aprons. Now, they won't necessarily be hard capped this time around because they've already done they did the Klay Thompson sign and trade, which hard capped them. I'm not going to be surprised if Klay Thompson's on the move. Like that seems to be like a kind of tradable contract.
He didn't have a lot last night, did he?
Yeah, it's starting to. There's still the occasional big game, and I would still take him in the rotation on a playoff team. It's just he's just not Klay Thompson anymore. I mean, he's 34 years old now
and significant injuries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if that's part of a trade. Daniel Gafford probably going to be. They're not going to move Lively. You could definitely get by with a 3 big rotation of Lively, Davis, and PJ Washington, and then you figure out whoever the fourth guy is there. But they have to get more ball handling and playmaking because we know Kyrie's going to miss half, if not more, of next season. And that's the challenge. This roster is just too light. I mean, you saw at moments Max Christie was trying, and it's just not what his game is.
Yeah.
Maybe he grows into that down the line potentially, but he just can't. It's just not what he does. So they're in a tough spot in Dallas for sure with how they're going to kind of retool this roster in the wake of the Irving injury.
I mean, they started Najee Marshall as,
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say point guard, but their primary initiator on the offense because it was that or Spencer Dinwiddie, and that's basically all they've got left.
I think they wanted to remove an attack point for the Lakers because the Lakers would have just found Dinwiddie every time.
Yeah,
it would have just went right at him. So I think it was like, all right, at least let's put 5 credible defenders on the floor and try to match up that way. And it worked okay. Like that first quarter there wasn't a lot of defense from either side on both sides. The shot making was just, bonkers kind of early on.
Yeah, it was.
And then Marshall played a nice game. But yeah, I mean, if Najee Marshall is like your third offensive guy with the ball in his hands who can like do something off a dribble and against a rotation or a closeout, you feel okay, right? It's like, all right, when he has to be your top or second option, it's tough. And then to your point on AD, like nobody can make an entry pass in the NBA anymore. It's a complete lost art because nobody posts up.
Well, and the rules are different too in terms of doubling 100%. Off the ball. Like that changes a lot.
Yep. But even at times when it was like, they should be able to get it to AD, they couldn't, and it was just
people don't do it anymore.
Mess. Yeah, and then it's just and AD's not going to be the guy who's going to come out and get it 40 feet away from the basket and be like, all right, let me get it off a handoff and go make a play. It's just not his game. So they're rough right now.
And the Mavs did try to do that in the second half. The Mavs finally went, we have to put the ball into the hands of Anthony Davis. And so they had him going and getting the ball up, above the 3-point line or one step in and stuff like that. And but then he was just getting walled off and there wasn't a lot that he could do there. They need playmakers on this team in a bad way. So, I think the Mavs, could they survive the play-in? Well, I guess let's hold that conversation for when we get into the standings here. Let's go here. Nikola Jokic, the shocking firing of Michael Malone. Keith, I did radio just right before we started recording this, and I said, the Michael Malone firing was the second time this season that I've had to like double, triple check and make sure that Shams Charania didn't get hacked. Like I didn't buy it. I'm like, this can't be real. This can't be right. That tells you what kind of season it's been. That had never happened before, and now it's happened twice in a year. But that the word out of Denver now, this is kind of what happens, right? Word starts to come out about what was going on, and it sounded like Malone, as fiery as he can be, was starting to wear a little thin on the players, which that happens. That happens in the NBA. Sometimes at some point, a coach, just their words start to fall on deaf ears, and it seems like maybe that's where things were in Denver. We also got confirmation from ownership that they basically said, we're making this move in the summer. We came to a point where we made the decision. We're moving on from Michael Malone. We're moving on from Calvin Booth this summer. So we said, why not just do it now and see where we land?
Yeah, exactly. I think so. There's now, as we know how these things go, you get the news, then you get the team announcement, then you get the real story, if you will, after, right? Like where it's like, all right, we talked to people involved. So one, you're starting to get the stories of Jokic and other Nuggets, because I think they had some other guys in there where like he's just really tough to play for. And I imagine when it's all right, we're in title contention, it's a lot easier to take him yelling at you every day. Mm-hmm. When you have slipped a little bit, it's probably not as easy. And when you're in like I don't know what year this was, but it's like year 9 or 10 of it, you probably start to feel like even more it's harder to take. 9 or 10 for the Nuggets, probably no more than like year 7 or 8 for most of these guys. I think Jokic has been there the longest with them. Mm-hmm. So it probably does get really tough. I mean, coaches like that, we often see for him to last as long as Michael Malone did is because they won the title a couple seasons ago. Like that's why. Otherwise they would have moved on probably that year if they had not come through and won. So that part's tough. I think now the story of Calvin Booth was like, I'm going to fire Michael Malone, but I'm going to wait till the end of the season to do it, and then Nuggets ownership was like, actually, you're both gone.
We'll
Like
just get rid of both of you.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's come out now. Josh Kroenke is basically running the front office with a couple holdover front office staffers, but that is not the long-term plan. There's a plan to go get like a general manager, and it's probably more of I'm running it because there's not. I know I said the other day there's a lot going on as far as prep and planning. There's not a lot going on in the immediate in a front office today as far as we have to go make a trade today or we need to make a big signing or something like that. Mostly what we're seeing right now is like end of the roster moves for teams. So we'll see, where that ultimately goes, with that one. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Like you got to, it's still crazy to me. Like we could come up with all the rationale that people want to give for why, this happened, but I don't know. Moving on from Michael Malone at this point, I have to believe the decision had been made. We are cleaning house at the top of the leadership in our basketball group. And they did not want Michael Malone coaching the Nuggets into the finals and being, well, we can't fire him now. Like now we're stuck. But as multiple people said when I said that, a lot of people's reply was, yes, I too hate when my team is in title contention. Boy, that makes me so angry. It's like, yeah, I get it.
It's just bizarre. I mean, it was shocking when Taylor Jenkins got fired with 9 games to play on the Grizzlies schedule. 3 games remaining for the Denver Nuggets, and they won. Their most what was the last night they won, but man, it was shocking to say the least. The Michael Malone is now on the way out, is now out, and I do wonder how much of this is the new CBA too, recognizing that we probably can't have all 4 of these guys on the roster making what they're making. The way this team's constructed, we need more depth. We're going to have somebody come in that can really take this and remold this roster. And so I think we've got I think this is the beginning, Keith, for changes with the Denver Nuggets, both in terms of the front office and all of that, but also, and maybe David Adelman just becomes the guy this summer. We'll see where that all goes. But in terms of this roster, I think there's going to be a restructuring that we see now take place this summer.
Yeah, I again, barring a really at this point unexpected run it would probably have to be to the finals at this point. I think we're going to see major changes. I don't think I really don't think it'll be Jokic. I don't think we're going to see that. But yeah, anybody of Porter, Gordon, or Murray, or maybe even a couple of them, would not surprise me. And I think we're going to get the dual kind of reasoning when it comes out of, well, we had to get under the second apron, well clear of it and make sure we have, and they're, to be fair, they're under it right now because they're hard capped at it, but we needed a really clear space, under these aprons to make moves and do other things. And it was time for a reset. Those will be the reasons we'll get. And Nuggets fans are already preparing and already countering back with, well, why don't you just admit the real reason is you're kind of been a little cheap, over the years. Now, I do think that's a little tough because they have paid the tax.
Sure.
Like they have not set the tax as like they're the artificial hard cap line, but I get where Nuggets fans.
They lost Bruce Brown. They lost Contavious Caldwell-Pope.
Yeah.
They lost some depth for sure.
And
but
the Bruce Brown
one coming in too.
Exactly. The Bruce Brown one was not on them. Like once the Pacers were like, hey, you want $20 million?
Right.
That wasn't a case of the Nuggets. Like, hold on, we'll match. The Nuggets couldn't give him that much because of the contract he had signed with them previous. Now, where the Nuggets have kind of, I think the more egregious things is like $5 million for Reggie Jackson and used your taxpayer MLE that way. Then Dario Saric the next year, like those were just bad mistakes. And like, what are you doing?
So. Yeah. I mean, you look at Denver, like I guess the issue is when you've got $40 million for Porter Jr., 45 for Murray, 55 for Jokic for next season. By the way, next season's numbers, 22 for Aaron Gordon. You don't really have room for $5 million for Dario Saric. Zeke Naji at $8 million, and you're not getting a lot of production out of those.
And giving Russ control of the next year,
right?
Like, you could have just given him a 1-year minimum. Like you didn't need to probably do this. So and that, like, if you look down a little lower, Christian Brown already extension eligible. Because he's going into that 4th year. He's had a really, really strong season. That's another guy who's probably going to want something in the
He's never had a big contract yet in the NBA. Exactly. He's going to want to get some kind of security here.
Peyton Watson has shown, I think, enough defensively. He's probably going to want something in the mid-level range.
Yep.
Now, if I'm Denver, I'm going to be like, Peyton Watson, you're going to have to wait. Like, we're going to hold off if that's where it goes, because let's get through a season healthy. Let's see if you develop a little more offensively. You're already a great defender, but let's see where it goes. But Brown, yeah, you probably want to lock that up. You just don't want to mess around, and if you play the game, we might have 5-6 teams with cap space in 2026. There's probably not going to be that super duper free agent class. So that's when it becomes, all right, let's throw an offer sheet at them and really force Denver to think. And if it's just the year after we just dug out from underneath a couple tough contracts, probably don't want to jump right back into another, spot where it's like, man, we had to give him 30 because that's what he got in an offer sheet. You probably don't want to be there.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at the standings.
Yeah.
In both conferences here, because it is coming down to the wire. Let's start with the East. I mean, the East is a little bit more clear cut. 1, 2, 3, pretty. That's set. That's not changing.
New York. Man, let's see. Let's see if the Pacers.
You think New York's going to fall out?
I don't think so, because it's 2 with 3 to play for each team. Probably not, but the Knicks do have the Pistons tonight. The Pistons are, in theory, I guess, trying to chase down the Bucks still. So I think this is probably what it's going to finish.
Do you know off the top of your head who has the Knicks Pacers tiebreaker? Because that matters a ton.
I think it's the Pacers.
Okay.
Because I think if they do end up tied, I think the Pacers get that 3rd spot.
Okay. So that maybe that could be. I'm still just a 2-game gap with 3 games to play. That's but. Yep. You never know. It's not mathematically impossible.
Yeah, and it can clinch tonight too. If the Knicks win tonight and the Pacers lose, I think that locks it in for them.
Detroit, Milwaukee. I mean, Detroit. I think I think if I'm Detroit, I would prefer to go play the Pacers than play the Knicks. Sure. But I don't know. Again, we're the same situation. A 2-game gap in the loss column with 3 games to play. That's not. We're probably sticking. The top 6 probably stays. If I had to bet, the top 6 is what the top 6 is in the Eastern Conference.
Agreed.
Okay, so then we go down to Orlando, Atlanta. I mean, I know Orlando and Atlanta play the last game.
They're locked in now, though. Orlando already has the tiebreaker because
they've got the tiebreaker.
They've clinched the division with the robust 40-40 record.
Okay, so they are set 7-7.
They will host the 7-8 play-in game, but Atlanta and Chicago. I mean, Chicago's right there, so we'll see.
They could potentially move up there. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Obviously, the 10 are the 10. Toronto is not moving up or anything like that. They've already done enough damage to their tank.
I also believe Philly has now clinched the 5th.
The 5th, yeah.
So that's pre-lottery too, just to be very, very clear. But if people have been watching for a while, we've been kind of hammering on, you want to be 5th versus 6th, because then if it takes 2 teams to jump you to push you out of getting your pick.
Right.
Where if you were 6, it would only take 1 team to move up, and then you would lose that pick. So they're in a lot more comfortable position now. Pretty masterful job of tanking into keeping a protected pick if you're Philly.
So the thing to really watch, it's the Hawks and the Bulls and seeing where that lands in terms of, and if you're the Bulls and you have a chance to move, I mean, it's a big difference from being 7-8 or being 9-10. 7-8 means you're in a double elimination situation, and 9-10 are in single elimination. They lose once, they are done. So the Bulls catching the Hawks would actually be a really big deal for Chicago, and the Bulls 7-3 in their last 10. So playing pretty well. Where do you think this lands?
I kind of think it's probably going to stick where it is.
Where the Bulls have left. The Bulls have Washington and Philly. The Bulls aren't losing again.
No. Atlanta has, I know Orlando's the last one.
They have Brooklyn, Philly, and Orlando.
They're probably going to win out. Because Orlando will have nothing to play for on the last day. So I think they may just kind of be like, all right, let's just, let it ride, especially if it's like we play unless they wanted to try to be like, we don't want to play the Hawks. I don't know. We'll see.
I was going to say what's interesting is that Orlando could almost choose their opponent if they played it, but I would be surprised if Orlando went all in to try to beat Atlanta just so they wouldn't see Atlanta
Yeah, and
in
I
the
think
play,
Miami can still, in theory, move up to 8. Let me check. The NBA, I've been retweeting it, but when they send it out each day,
Mhm.
they do it's kind of a neat graphic where it says, here's all the possible seedings.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bulls can still, or excuse me, the Heat could still move up to 8. So that would obviously take, at this point, I think them winning out and the other teams losing. So probably not going to happen. They're probably going to be 10.
Yeah. So here's what we've got here from the league between the Knicks and the Pistons. If New York
Yeah,
defeats Detroit, New York's locked in the 3. Indiana's locked in the 4 with a win or a Milwaukee loss. Milwaukee locked into 5th with a win and an Indiana win. Detroit locked into 6 with a Milwaukee win.
Yep. And then you can find the there it is. This I like this little graphic.
Yeah.
Because I mean the West is still stupid.
It's insane.
It's just unbelievable. So key to kind of know on the I know we're gonna go to the full West look
in
a moment, but the I think scroll it up just slightly to the 3rd seed. There it is. Yeah, the Warriors and Wolves are now out. So their losses the last couple of days. So the Minnesota had that incredible collapse against the Bucks a couple nights ago. Yeah, it was. I think it ended up being like a 35-6 run in the 4th quarter that Milwaukee won on, and that was a Milwaukee team that didn't have some guys, so like not great. Look there, and then the Warriors lost to the Spurs last night. One of them
at the buzzer. Harrison Barnes revenge game.
Yeah, revenge game, absolutely. So you want to pull up the West, and we can look at where it's at.
Let's take a look because the West is where the East. There might be a little bit of shuffling. Keith, I mean, I've got people ask me like, "Hey, make a video on what needs to happen for the Western Conference standings." I'm like,
yeah,
I feel like the whatever it is, the Always Sunny, like where they're in the spider,
all the strings everywhere,
all the strings. That's the Western Conference because I'm like, I just throw my hands. I don't know. Like, this is insane.
One. Kings and Mavs are playing in the 9-10 game. There we go.
Yeah, we know that.
And the Thunder and Rockets are locked in. We know that.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Anything else is pretty much still could happen. Like,
you have the Lakers in 3 with 31 losses. If they win, I know it's very simple for the Lakers. Win one of your remaining 2 games and you're locked into the 3 seed. That's it. But then you have Denver, the Clippers, the Grizzlies all tied with 32 losses, and the Warriors and the Wolves tied with 33 losses. And the Wolves play the Grizzlies tonight. The Clippers, this could be crazy. The Clippers play the Warriors the final game of the season.
Yeah.
Denver plays Memphis tomorrow night, second night of a back-to-back for the Grizz on the road. This could shift drastically and in any direction right now, Keith. It's insane.
And it's important to know, we probably could have talked this with the East. It's far more important here with the West. There's a handful of games tonight, Thursday night. We're recording this Thursday afternoon. Handful of games. Friday, everybody plays. Then Saturday, nobody plays. It's a day off for the NBA. Then Sunday, everyone plays. And all of the East games are at 1 p.m. Eastern. All of the West games are at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And then the one cross-conference game, I think it's Pistons Grizzlies, if I remember.
I thought it was Raptors somebody.
You're right. It's Raptors Spurs, which means nothing. That's also at 3:30. Right. So that game doesn't mean anything to anybody. I think there's draft position that can change with that one. So yeah, so it is going to be pretty crazy coming down here. It's that Clippers Warriors game. ESPN ended up picking that one up, and they picked up Pistons Bucks in the earlier window. Those are the games that are most likely to have something at stake, directly. But yeah, it's going to be so fun to watch this play out over the next few days. I had in the kind of the Lakers had kind of run away a little bit at the end of the game last night.
Yeah.
And I had a Lakers fan ask me, like, when do the Lakers start thinking about who would they like to play in the first round? And I was like, I don't know, Sunday at like 6:00 Eastern when the game's end.
I mean, I don't think they can.
Yeah, you can't. You can't play any shenanigan games because you can't. If you could say, all right, the Grizzlies are going to be the 5th seed. All right, I could understand if the Lakers are like, maybe we drop into 4.
Yeah.
Just then we get the easier first round matchup. But who knows where teams are going to be? You just take care of business, get the highest seed you can. I think if I'm the Lakers, I'm looking at it and saying, I'm good with 3. I'll play whoever it is in the first round, feel pretty good. Then I get the Rockets in the second round instead of the Thunder. And that's
Yeah.
just, it's not that the Rockets are going to be a pushover. They're going to
No.
make you work for it because they're
And they're
extremely
physical.
physical, and Dylan Brooks will pull some form of nonsense. But it'll be like that you should beat them, much easier than I think you can beat the Thunder. So it's just, put yourself in the best position to go where you can go. And that way, if there's an upset too, you might have home court again, right? And move forward. So yeah, it's I can't remember it ever being like this, with 2 or 3 games left for everybody. I've never seen it this much undecided. I think last year we were almost like locked in to just about everything going down to that final day.
Like I said, I've got people asking me, like, can you do something on all the different playoff possibilities?
Yeah.
I'm like, even if I did, it wouldn't make any sense to anybody because there's just so many different possibilities. It's like we're traveling through the multiverse here, right? I mean, there's just, there's so many different worlds that you could live in. I do think what is going to be really interesting is I think the last day, Warriors Clippers, we could very, very well, and I think this is likely, wind up in a scenario where that determines which team is in the, not just the playoffs, but which team falls to the play-in.
Yes. Yep.
Where it's a winner goes playoff, winner's the 5 seed or something, and the loser is like the 7 seed or something, like something dramatic on that line.
Yeah, and also very few teams, Houston and OKC can, Sacramento and Dallas can. Maybe the Lakers, by the time we get to Sunday, will be able to. That's probably it for teams that can go into Sunday and be like, no one's playing.
We're shutting it down. Yeah.
We're shutting it down. 2-way guys. Last chance for them to play this year. They're going to get out there and get a bunch of minutes, and that's it. Like, everyone's going to have to play. Now, what we could see is, all right, we're in the second half. Games gone one way or another. Other games have gone this way. Now we can start shutting it down. But they're going to have to go into those games at least playing if you care about it. Now, if I'm one of these West teams and it's like, oh man, my key player has a rolled ankle, I'm probably just going to be like, then sit, because I'd rather have you healthy than dealing with a problem. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Well, that's why they do this and have them all start at the same time. So you can't go, oh, well, this team already won or this team lost, so we don't have to do anything. And because they want that excitement on the final game of the season, which is great.
If we, I know we talk about it a lot. Adam Silver likes some of the things soccer does. This is the way soccer does it in every major competition. The last, games of group stage are all at the same time. Premier League, when they do their final day, which often has promotion, you can't get promoted, but Champions League spots on the line or relegation online, everybody plays at the exact same time on the last day of the season. And it's just crazy.
I like the live standings as teams score and stuff. Although I think that would be very difficult with the NBA because there's so many lead changes and all that. But
we tried that with I say we, like I was involved. I think ESPN tried that with the in-season tournament. Remember this year they tried to do like a thing, and it's just teams score too quickly.
It's too chaotic. Yeah, you could do, and what's one thing, like all the games are going to go to halftime about the same time. Okay, if every game finishes as is, then let's take a peek. This would be the standings. And then, a team makes a comeback in the second half or something. Okay, this shifts the standings in this way. That's fine to do. But
you can do it if like a team's up 20 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. You can be like, all right, it looks like they're going to, win and go this way.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. It
really is.
Should be a fun couple days. Yeah, like you said, even starting tonight. We got a couple
Minnesota and Memphis.
Big ones to watch. So, yeah.
I almost wish that I didn't have a Lakers game on Sunday at that time because I'm going to be doing the play-by-play. It's like I wish I could
what you need
have multiple screens and just cover it all.
That's it. You need the Lakers to already be locked in Sunday, right? Locked into the 3rd seed, and then you can. All right, guys, we're watching and talking about the Lakers game while we have an eye on Warriors.
Oh my God. It's like, when you're flying and you feel so lucky when you get on a flight that's not full and nobody else is sitting in your aisle.
Yeah.
It's so great. That will be the Lakers team plane. If they win Friday against Houston, they win tomorrow against Houston, the plane ride up to Portland, I would imagine there will be very, very many open seats on that flight.
Yeah, I completely agree. Quick story. So I'm I'm an early riser.
Yeah.
And when it's time for me to leave Las Vegas Summer League, I'm usually on the first flight back because I don't want to get into the East Coast and it's like 10 o'clock.
That's an
That first,
experience.
yeah. If you time it right, if you go almost the overnight, like a red eye,
Mhm.
it's like that's just the disaster flight. I did that once and it was just horrendous
Yeah.
because I was flying. It was like me and a slew of drunk people throwing up. It was just awful. But if you get like the 7 a.m. flight out where like you actually had to get up and get to the airport out, I have multiple times on that flight been like there's 7 people on the entire flight.
Because so
And
many
I've
people
like
no show it.
walked in. I've walked in where they've been like, sit wherever you want. Like there's like no one else. This is it. You're all here now. We already have the door closed. Just you guys can sit wherever you want. And yet the funny thing was people were still like sitting like in an aisle across and stuff. It's like, what are we doing? Like,
Man.
nobody sat in the actual aisle unless they were traveling together, or in the actual row, I should
Right.
say, unless they were traveling together. But yeah, it's that's the flight for me, man. And I catch up on work and everything else on the way out. It's great.
That I did that once, and I was shocked to find that pre-check is not open that early in the morning.
Nope.
And so I actually had to wait. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never, and I was on, I think, an hour of sleep at that point. Oh my God, that was, that was brutal.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah, I do not travel east to west well because I like that first night out there rolls around about 7, 8 o'clock West Coast time, and I'm like, can I sneak out of whatever I'm doing and just go back to the hotel and go to bed like this early? Like I want dinner at like 2:30, and like everybody's like, dude, like I haven't even had lunch yet. I was like, I know, I don't do the time zones well, but yeah, that's it'll be fun. On that note, I do want to thank. We had a lot of people reach out, whether it's in the show comments, on social media, or through email with questions about the sports business classroom stuff. You still reach out and ask your questions if you have more of them. We're happy to answer those. I am behind on a couple. I've had a busy couple of days with a lot of stuff going on, but I will get to you by the end of the weekend at the latest. But yeah, check it out. Sports business classroom spots are filling up pretty fast.
Mhm.
They're making announcements of speakers and people who are there. EP let a few of them go a little early in our show of people who are coming, but I think they're now putting those people out there. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But thanks for everybody who watched that and listened and and really is interested, because it's going to be a great week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everybody, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and we'll be live tomorrow for Front Office Friday. We'll see you there.